What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video for the My Team career journey here on the channel. If you missed the last one, we brought a pretty sizable upgrade package to Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and we took home our first ever points for Web Motorsport after a wonderful defensive battle with severe floor damage, I might add, finishing P6, which is actually the same number as our car, and we brought home a whopping 8 points, some much needed points early on in the season, as I can only imagine playing on reduced resources that this will certainly not happen every race weekend. So we turn our sights to the Albert Park circuit for the Australian GP in week 3, and our first order of business is to check in on the progress of the HQ departments. As I mentioned in the intro for this series, by answering the interview questions correctly, we started with the aero department at full level 1 specs. So we want to make sure that we are upgrading the other areas correctly so we avoid a bottleneck in development later down the road. So that being said, we are going to go ahead and build the build time spec for the chassis department for a whopping $2.25 million. But with that completing on March 25th, we should be able to push through some chassis upgrades much quicker that will certainly help us in the coming races. And speaking of upgrades, we have 2 more scheduled to come in ahead of the Australian GP, another rear downforce major upgrade to the Halo, and some more weight reduction changes to the chassis department. So combining that with the upgrades we received last race weekend, we should have a pretty sizable and pretty competitive package going into Albert Park. Now, a lot of focus has been on the aero side of things, but that is all by design, as the car needs so many of these upgrades to really feel like we can compete with the rest of the manufacturers. So we will go ahead and purchase another major upgrade to the front wing flap for 1,150 resources points, basically drying us up. But it is another big one that we should expect in before Azerbaijan. So going into that race weekend, we should have another major upgrade in for us, so we can remain on par with the other teams. But unfortunately, as we progress through the week, we are met with our first part failure of the year, as the cable assembly has failed us, which is extremely unfortunate, as we were hoping for more chassis upgrades, and more importantly, completing that part unlocks the first upgrades of the tire management upgrade system, which might be just the most important upgrades in F123, as the My Team car seems to bleed through the tire wear in races extremely quickly. It's something I've noticed in the first 2 race weekends, that the tire degradation is just absolutely insane on this year's car, whether it's the new drive model or what it might be. But that is very unfortunate that we have to wait another race weekend, but that is nothing we can do. We'll have to repurchase that upgrade and see our major Halo changes do come through, so a little bit of good news there. But with that failure, we have now settled. Actually, we've now stalled out a bit compared to the other teams around us. So it's a little unfortunate. We're going to have to grind. We're going to have to grind really hard during qualies to set us up for a good race weekend, and we'll head out there now. All right, so heading out to Albert Park circuit now for qualifier 1, and we're kind of just getting, a little bit used to the car here. Obviously, with some upgrades, it does feel a little bit different. There is noticeable changes, but I think the balance is just a little bit off. Obviously we have a major upgrade coming into the rear part of things, but not so much into the front. The weight of the car, the chassis, the redistribution seems a little bit off. So as we have our first qualifier lap here in Q1 out for the Australian Grand Prix, it's an okay time going. It's nothing special. It's nothing to really, hit home about, but it's going to set us up for at least, a good chance as the track gets a little bit warmer, more rubber gets on the track. The tracks out here, they do a good job, just like it is in real life, that when you start seeing more cars and as the day progresses, the track conditions just get better and better. So it's not, again, the fastest time, but it does allow us to get, a feel for the track, really get Albert Park, because there are some changes that have happened over the last couple of years that, being completely honest with you guys, I don't normally have a lot of success out here. I don't know what it is. This is one of my favorite circuits on the schedule, especially to watch. But whatever reason, when I've come around here and driven this track in the past, I just can't seem to really grasp the cornering in especially the sector 3. It's not something that I'm overly confident with, and you definitely notice it as we go. But as we cross the line, at the time, it is just a second behind Russell for P2. But as you can see, as everybody's crossing, we're going to get bumped really, really far down the list. So we are in P15 at that time. And unfortunately for us, I guess fortunately, unfortunately, our second lap really wasn't anything we could, you know, grab out of that, and that is going to be all it takes to get into Q2. It's something I wasn't really expecting, as in the second lap that we attempted, kind of bumped the wall, ran into a little bit of damage, nothing drastic, and I don't even know if they ended up repairing the front wing, but it was just enough to, you know, drop a couple extra tenths that we needed. So I bailed out on the lap and was just hoping that we'd get in, and we did get into Q2. So this is our first Q2 lap 1 run here, and again, it's as the track is improving and as we're getting more familiar, the time is not bad, but you can see just a little bit of snap of oversteer as we hit that curb. The curbs are extremely dangerous out here if you run over them too much, so just trying to extract anything and everything we can out of the car. But again, as you're going to see the time in just a moment here, and as we continue into our second lap, I tried getting more and more out of the car, and I just couldn't do it. As you see, we run a little bit wide there, and again, it's just my confidence level at this circuit. I'm not entirely sure what the reasoning is, but as we cross the line here, it's going to be a P5 at the moment, but that's going to severely drop as we were only able to get a 127, so definitely not what we need. And now we're in risk of the drop, so we're in P15 here. We need to be in that side, that top 10, something we were able to do at Jeddah, but we're not quite able to do here. Again, as you can see, the delta, we've been red in sector 1 and 2, almost creeping up into the green for sector 3, but that last corner once again is just not enough as we cross the line, and it is a worse time than our first one. We were 5 tenths above, and that is going to be it for our qualifying here in Albert Park circuit for the Australian Grand Prix. And it's just enough. Again, I don't really know what the reasoning is, but I did my best to extract the pace out of the car, and I just couldn't get it. So we will settle for P16th here as Oscar Piastri does finish just above us, and we'll get set for the race weekend. Enjoy the introduction.
Welcome to Melbourne, and welcome to the Australian sun. We're still getting used to some track revisions here, but the core hasn't changed. This is a beloved classic of the F1 calendar, and it's time for the Australian Grand Prix. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 14 corners and 3.28 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles per hour. Close proximity of the barriers make accidents inevitable. Recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Ocon, Stroll, Magnussen, Zhou, Tsunoda, Albon, Oscar Piastri, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Sargent, De Vries, Nissany, De Vries. And now it's time to head down to the track. And a warm welcome, of course, to my co-commentator here today. It's Natalie Pinkham. Can we begin by having a chat about Charles Leclerc?
What a quality performance. The big question, though, is how does that translate on race day? Can they hold on to that lead? And let's see who's able to keep their tyres in that temperature sweet spot early on. You've got a great tyre warmer underneath your right foot, and the drivers need to make the most of that on the formation lap, or they'll skate wide at turn 1 on cold rubber.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the beautiful Albert Park circuit here in Melbourne, Australia for the Australian Grand Prix. We have 5 red lights that are now out, and we are off and running here for another beautiful race weekend. And looking to get off to another hot start. As you'll see, we'll make really quick work here of Yuki Tsunoda, a much better start than the Japanese driver, and we are now putting the pressure on Albon and Guan Yu Zhu. Yuki Tsunoda will look to come around the outside once more, but we do shut him off now, and it looks like Zhu just went kind of over the curb a little too aggressively, so look for us to make a move as we throw on the battery here down the straight, and we will get the aggressive move here as he goes to the outside right behind Albon and has nowhere to move, so we complete the move, and that is up 3 positions here early. Remember, that's something that I've been working on in the last few F1 series video games, was just getting off to good starts, not spinning the tires, not losing positions, and working from behind. Instead, today, we have gained 3 positions, so off to another hot start as you see Albon tear down the road nearly a second ahead of us, so the pace is clearly not quite there just yet, so we'll throw on the battery and try and close that gap. But not a bad start, nice and conservative, get a couple of positions. We'll hop back to the beginning of the race now, and it's Sergio Perez starting on the second row of the grid. He passes his teammate teammate Verstappen, and Carlos Sainz is now looking to make the move around the outside on Charles Leclerc, so Checo's getting off to a wonderful start, goes up from position 4 all the way to P1, and is now Leclerc, followed by Sainz, and Verstappen was the slowest man on the grid to start, so it's very unusual to see the champion get off to such a, rocky start, but knowing him, being on the mediums, he'll be able to close that gap. I'm sure over time we'll see his name creep towards that leaderboard, but now Charles Leclerc will swing to the inside, and he is looking to make a move down the straight, so very hot action here early in lap 1 for the leaders, as now Leclerc squeaks ahead of him, but Perez gets the better line. I was almost saying Verstappen, expecting it to be him, but this is Sergio Perez off to a really hot start, starting on the the soft tires. That is also what we start on. There seems to be two strategies, as you saw, Verstappen and Sainz both on medium, so maybe just the grip not quite there at the start of the race when the red lights went out, but great to see Perez and Leclerc battling it out. They have a little bit of gap now as we hop back to lap 2 of our race, and we're doing a nice job just easing into this one. We've bridged a little bit of a gap to Guan Yu and the Alfa Romeo. Those cars are probably going to be a lot faster than us. Yuki Tsunoda, he's on the mediums. We should have no problem as he is now a 1.2 gap. And we're doing a great job here. Open air a little bit because, Albon's about a second up the road. So once we want to stay within that if we can, but that car's looking mighty fast as we approach lap 3. We're going to want that DRS and some pretty clean racing here. A little bit of snap of oversteer. Again, I must admit that I don't know what it is about this track, but I'm not that comfortable in it. I can't seem to get the pace figured out, but so far so good early here as Zhu almost makes the attack around the outside. You see Bottas just slipping to 15th as he passes Yuki Tsunoda. So it's going to be a tall task here to hold off the Alfa Romeos as they are a much quicker car. We saw that in Jeddah, but right now we are closing the gap just a little bit. DRS is going to be thrown on here. Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap. And now we'll hop back to the back of the circuit here. Pierre Gasly got off to a little bit of a rocky start, had some bad qualifying luck, but now he makes the move on Nick De Vries, and he's going to have a tall task with medium tires to gain some positions on this leaderboard and climb back up. We know the Alpine's capable. It seems like they've been riddled with a little bit of bad luck out in qualifiers, but he has a tall task just to catch up to Logan Sargent, who seems to be driving that Williams pretty well in early goings here. We'll bounce back just behind us. Yuki Tsunoda making the move on Piastri there, but Piastri holds the outside and he gets the better exit now. And we have this beautiful aerial view of the second sector here at Albert Park, and the third sector. Final few corners, final chicane here going into the next lap, and we have a train of cars there, and that's actually Roy Nissany, our teammate, who did a great job. Must have had a pretty good start because I believe he qualified either 21st or 22nd. So to be up into, I think, P14, P15 at that time is a pretty good, a respectable number. Drops now down to P18, but back to the leaders now. Perez still ahead, but it is Charles Leclerc, and again, we said this out in Jeddah, that Ferrari has been looking mighty fast here in the early goings of this season, and they are doing a great job now as it's Charles Leclerc putting the pressure onto Perez, but he'll get the better racing line here out of the corner, and now Max Verstappen's closing that gap, so as we expected, he's using that Red Bull to the best of his abilities, and we'll get one more look at Charles Leclerc throwing it to the outside now as we approach this final few corners here in Sector 3, and it's going to be a mad dash to that final chicane, but all in all, Charles Leclerc gets his Ferrari position out front, and that is a very good showing here for the Monegasque man to be out in P1 and battling a Red Bull. We'll head back to ours now. Lap 5, it was a little bit of a mundane race up until that point. Again, we bridged the gap. You can see that too. Zhou there is 1.3 seconds. And we're doing a good job, taking a little bit of corners just carefully as we get, remember, this is a race 35%. So as we get into the later stages of stint 1, the tires will degrade faster, but so far they seem okay. We're not losing too much pace as now Valtteri Bottas is battling out with his teammate Guan Yu Zhou, and he does get ahead there. So a little bit of friendly battle there as Oscar Piastri's putting on the pressure, so I'm not quite sure if that was the smartest idea. It may have been wiser. Not quite sure what each one of them were lapping, but now Bottas out in front of his teammate, followed very closely by the McLaren of Oscar Piastri and the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. Some friendly little battles here earlier in lap 6 now, one more lap further up. You can see we are starting to lose a little bit of pace. As we pass these sectors, you're going to see the red time, and it's not the best out there. We are losing about I would say 0.2 of a second every single lap, if not more. And you see Bottas gets a brilliant exit out of there. We've lost Piastri a little bit, but now the pressure is really going to be on our heels here. And I believe lap 9 is the pit window, lap 8, lap 9. So we're going to have to try and just struggle it out. The pace isn't quite there anyway, just because I always have seemed to struggle on this track. But now with the tires, yeah, you saw a little bit of oversteer as we had to cut back into the corner. And Piastri is looking to catch up here as we just slam off the outside move from Valtteri Bottas. Bottas, so playing some severe defense similar to what we did in Jeddah when we had that damage on the car due to the incident with Hamilton. We've gotten ourselves into an okay position. Sure, it's not points, but we are battling it out now as Bottas floors on that DRS, and he is just easily coasting past us, but he brakes severely early there, probably a little bit earlier than he should have, and we just go around the outside and regain that position 13, and now Piastri is hot on his heels, so he may have just missed his apex, tried going on the inside, tried to avoid the curb, whatever it might have been, but bailed out of that, bailed out of that one pretty hard. And now we have the safe position here as we're going to try and go down this final stretch of stint 1. And then just great racing all up and down the leaderboard. Lap 7 now, you see up ahead of us on the leaderboard. We'll come back to this a little bit later, but Magnussen has found himself right there in the close to the points. So it's going to be exciting to see what comes down the wire, who's on the leaderboard. It's actually a pretty jam-packed one with a bunch of different teams, which is nice to see. Now you see Bottas has closed that gap with Oscar Piastri, but the three of us have a bit of a gap between us and the teammate of Bottas there in Guan Yu, but doing a great job here. It's starting to lose the grip a bit. The car is still running great. I feel like I do have some straight line speed, but when the grip starts to go in the tire degradation, especially on a circuit like Albert Park, you just get those corners where you have to dip the car in, like this one. Beautiful aerial shot here, and we just lose so much pace. As you can see, the much faster cars out of those corners. We get a pretty good exit on the second one there, but Bottas with the DRS is easily going to catch up to us now. Lap 9, we've called for a pit stop. We're boxing on this lap, and hopefully going on to the mediums, we'll get a little bit more, pace, a little bit more grip, and we can finish out. We will have 11 laps on the medium, which in this reduced race is a lot to go for, but there is a lot of guys on on softs that are also going to be pitting for the same tire. I think the guys that started on the mediums probably had a much easier time, and they'll probably look to overcut us. We're getting in right on the first lap of the window. You can see there's only a couple cars here. I think there was only 2 ahead of Bottas and myself, so we're coming in here looking to get a good pit stop. This beautiful drive to survive like camera angle. The pit job does a great job at getting those mediums on super quick, so kudos to them. I believe it was about a 2.9, so I believe that's our fastest of the year so far. We get out ahead of Valtteri there, both of us now on the mediums, and we are looking to just continue our race now. As once we've dropped back down at this time to the bottom of the pack, but once the laps oh my word, Valtteri Bottas gets ahead full of speed here with the DRS, and he's looking to make a move on the first real challenge here of the lap 10 with the fresh mediums, and I did not expect that to come at us so fast. That car looked like a rock ship coming out of the pit. Must have had so much battery to work with. Threw open the DRS flap, and he caught us in a millisecond. That was incredibly crazy seeing that coming straight out of the pit. But as I was saying, it's just good to see that, once the laps progress and we get all the pit stops, we should be able to, because we're in open air there with Valtteri, we should be able to re-enter after all the pit stops back in that position we lost. So back up to the leaders now. You can see as pits start to flow, I believe Checo has pitted at this point in the race. So it is now Charles Leclerc, or this might be Carlos Sainz, followed by, we are on board with the reigning champion, Max Verstappen of the Red Bull. He is yet to pit, so he is currently on the mediums. I believe he will switch off to the hards. I can't imagine he goes too long and switches onto the softs, but some more battles up and down the leaderboard. Great to see here. 2 Ferraris pinning in the Red Bull, followed by the teammates. So yeah, just some exciting races going on here early, and this is Max Verstappen now challenging Charles Leclerc here for the race lead before they pit, and he does a great job around the outside, and that Red Bull is just so fast as he easily overtakes Charles Leclerc, who did a great job. Again, that Ferrari's looking mighty fast here, but we have a train at the top, so that's going to be very exciting to watch that one going forward. And now here on lap 11, oh no, Charles Leclerc, as we were giving him so much praise for getting that Ferrari into a great position, he has been forced to DNF. Not quite sure what happened. Let's have a look here. This was a little bit farther after the pit stop, so this is when Perez and Leclerc has pitted. Oh, a puff of smoke, and unfortunately reliability here early in the season continues for Ferrari, as in the first 3 races we've either seen power failure or a technical failure for this team, and that is just not going to sit well with the team principal. But now ahead, lap 12. The first round of pits after us are in, and we're back up to 15, so there are still a few guys that will look to pit after us. But all of a sudden, as Bottas gets a great exit, we are met with a virtual safety car. Not quite sure what happened, but a little unfortunate because we were cruising pretty nicely there with Bottas. He probably had the speed to pass us, but as we have to reduce our pace, we are going to allow this for Sargent, Guan Yu, Yuki, all those guys we were talking about earlier. But the safety car is due to our teammate. What happened with Roy Nissany? It looked like, I'm not sure if that was Yuki coming out of the pit straight, but it looked like he just turned in early and lost his entire front wing. What are you doing, Roy Nissany? So back in Bahrain, we saw him spin out and drive backwards on the track to be disqualified. And now here on race weekend 3, he makes a very rookie mistake. I know he's still very fresh. We're putting a lot of pressure on him, drafting him, but we'll bounce back and just have a quick look to make sure Yuki didn't cross over the pit line straight barriers here. Still within the lines, cruising along. All of us come crashing through. Everything's going well. And then, yeah, he threw the hand up, Yuki. I'm not quite sure what Roy was doing. Just turning early? That just seems like such a bad mistake here as he's coming down the straight. He clearly sees Yuki coming out of... Oh, my word, Roy. That is such a bad move. Probably has some suspension damage. Otherwise, I can't imagine why he wouldn't be able to make it back in with a damaged wing. But for us, as the race resumes here on lap 12, we are now on lap 13. More people in the pits. You see Gasly, Piastri. This should determine the outcome of where the people stand after all the pit stops. Everybody will be in from this moment on, and we will pass both of them. We're actually, that early undercut did propel Bottas and myself up to P12 and 13 respectively. And now on lap 14, we are starting to see a little bit of tire degradation, a little bit of lost grip, but we're still lapping okay. We put up our fastest lap here on the mediums not long ago of a 1:22.6. Definitely not something to be overly excited about, but comparatively to what we were seeing on the softs, this is really good to see. The mediums should be able to hold on. But again, after that safety car, the virtual safety car, we are in such a tight race again. We had bridged out about a 2-3 second gap, but unfortunately for us, that is now, everybody's condensed and we're in a 5-car battle. So back at the top here, this is Perez. Remember, he pitted much earlier. He was on softs to mediums. And it's Verstappen, who switched from mediums to hard, has started to put the gap. You can see the time just dwindling down now, 2.3 seconds. So he should have the pace on those hard as the degradation starts for Perez like it is for us. Verstappen has a chance to catch him. And now back here, that was Hamilton looking to make the move on Sainz. He will get the DRS flap open as he passes on to lap 16. And he has closed the gap immensely to Carlos Sainz. So remember, Leclerc is out of this race, so it's up for Carlos Sainz to try and finish very strong and get on that podium for Ferrari. And back behind Hamilton, we have Fernando Alonso, who's actually being challenged by the McLaren of Norris. So I just said it momentarily ago, but there's so many friendly battles, about 2-car battles up and down the leaderboard. And we are seeing a great one here as somehow Lando Norris is matching the pace of Alonso. And the surprise of the day, we saw him in P11 after all the pit stops. Magnussen, the man from Haas, is in P7 defending from Russell, who seems to just be struggling in these last few Grand Prix. We saw in Jeddah, he kind of got held up during that, that safety car that we kind of were involved with, and he just couldn't climb the leaderboard enough, and now he's stuck in P8 behind a Haas car. He cannot be happy with Lance Stroll of Aston Martin now pressuring him in the inside, looking for a play. He's going to go around the outside in this next corner, and then Alpine has joined the fight now. So a 3-man battle behind Kevin Magnussen, and he is just putting all of the pressure on these guys to make a move while defending. And this is a great little aerial view here of what we got going in the middle pack of the circuit, starting with Kevin Magnussen, who's in P7 and holding on for dear life, as now Ocon looking around the outside in the Alpine, and he does pass Stroll. So this is wonderful, and Alexander Albon in the Williams has also joined the fight. This is just incredible driving from all of these guys, and we'll get a little bit of an onboard view here of the beautiful Williams blue car with the amazing Duracell battery halo there. And he has a great head of speed here as he's looking to make the move onto Ocon, and the Williams is looking phenomenal on the straights with the DRS. And just up ahead, it is now Russell once again putting on the pressure of Kevin Magnussen, who goes around the outside, and he puts on a phenomenal defensive move as he forces Russell onto the curb and maintains that position. And now Albon looking to complete the move, but he does not have the same fate, as that inside move just seems a little bit more aggressive and not quite what you need to do to overtake that. Back to our race now, lap 17, and our race is no different. We have Guan Yu Zhou and Bottas hot on our heels, and it's going to do everything we have in these last few laps. As you can see, we've just lost a little bit of pace. Have to take these corners much slower as Guan Yu slips to the inside. We'll go around the outside, force him to the curb, but unlike George Russell, he completes that move with ease. And Guan Yu now up into P12. So again, these aren't point positions that we're fighting for, but this is so exciting to see that we still have some competitive edge with the AI in the later stages of the race through this middle part of the leaderboard. And now Guan Yu just zips ahead, so he's showing that Alfa Romeo even with no DRS is just absolutely incredible. We will thankfully be in the activation point, so we should be able to just kind of slingshot our way with Zhou as Bottas hot heals us, and we just take that corner a little bit too on the inside. We're going to lose a lot of pace here, as you're going to see Bottas slip within that 0.2 of a second. And we thankfully have enough battery, 25% to work with from now until the end of the race is a decent amount. We've done a good job maintaining that. Back up to 4th position here, jarring for that 3rd and final podium. Hamilton makes the move, and he will overtake Sainz for the time being. Sainz will get the DRS here momentarily, but a really good move there from the Son of a Time world champion. And back up to the top of the leaderboard here. This is this is Carlos Sainz. I forgot Leclerc is out of the race, so that is just his point of view behind Hamilton now. And further behind, Alonso still being pressured by Norris. So a very, very big kudos to Lando Norris, who is showing that the McLaren, while it's still lower down on the depth chart, is showing tremendous pace, and he is just kind of stuck in that DRS zone. So unfortunately, Alonso, that Aston Martin should be miles ahead of a McLaren, is doing a great job just to maintain with Alonso and keep that DRS going. And right there, Russell looked to make another move. And stop me if you've heard this before, on the same chicane, Magnussen does a great job at defending and shuts down Russell to maintain 7th position, closely followed now by Russell and Stroll. Looks like Ocon has fallen off a little bit and Albon even more. But as we hop back to our race, lap 18, the train continues for us as we are leading Bottas, Sargent, Gasly, Tsunoda. Again, it looks like Guan Yu is just too far ahead now for us to catch. He's about 1.5 seconds. Bottas looks to go on the inside, similar to what his teammate did, but he does not get a friendly luck there as he gets a snap of oversteer, and we will make the move around the outside to the inside, better racing line, and we get a little bit of a head start here as we gain or increase our gap now to 0.6 of a second, and Sargent is pressing very aggressively on the heels of Bottas. So nice little move, calm defense. That's kind of the name of the game. We got ourselves in a position earlier with those softs, and now we're just playing defense. It's a little bit boring, but it's something that we got to do in the early goings of the season, just to make sure that we're not just losing momentum. And as we come back to the top of the leaderboard, it is now Verstappen, who has completely closed the gap to his teammate Perez. He will get the DRS open, and on those hards, which are performing much better than they did in Jeddah, the mediums seem to be falling off so much faster for all the guys, including us, that are using them. Verstappen will go aggressively over the curb, but he is hot on the heels of his teammate, and this is going to be very exciting late as we slip back to Hamilton, who is still on lap 19, trailing Carlos Sainz after that move that saw the Ferrari man jump back ahead. So back and forth. All these little twosome battles are so exhilarating, and you'll see Hamilton has closed the gap great. And once again, on the same move, Russell goes to the inside, and Magnussen says, not today, the 3rd time this has happened on the same move. It should just be Russell looking to make a move somewhere else, as Magnussen seems to have the defense completely shut down as he goes from outside to inside very slowly, and he will stop the momentum of Russell. But that will allow Lance Stroll of the Aston Martin to slip on the inside and pass Russell, so a mistake, being aggressive once again in a corner that has not worked for George Russell. He now sees the back end of an Aston Martin in front of him with a Alpine of Ocon even closer. So this is a car train that is just exhilarating to watch, and we'll come down the wire as we now have 1.5 laps remaining. Oh my, and remember, Pierre Gasly's not out of this. He started at the bottom of the pack, has climbed his way on the hards. Once again, the hards seem to be doing wonders for all these guys. He'll look to make the move onto Valtteri, gets around the outside, gets the better racing line. Can he complete the move on Valtteri to get right up on our heels? And he will. So now we have an Alpine trailing us of Pierre Gasly, and this is so exciting. We are just doing a phenomenal job of defending here, and all these guys are jarring for that P14 to have a chance to attack us on one of these straights. So it's just some great up and down wheel-to-wheel racing throughout the entire leaderboard, and this is just so much fun to watch. We do have a little bit of a gap now. We're going to be coming into this final sector 3, and we're approaching quickly. Lap 20, back up to the leaders as Hamilton is so close now to Sainz. Will he make... Oh no, Sainz gets a rear lock and he goes sailing off to the grass, and that is an easy overtake for Hamilton. On lap 20, the final lap, he's just pushing too hard, gets a tire lock, and I feel like he just handed Hamilton a podium position so bad on lap 20. That is so unfortunate. And as we round this final little chicane here coming up for lap 19, we see Bottas still battling it out with Pierre Gasly, gets back ahead of him. So, the Alfa Romeo showing great resilience, good speed. And now Sargent's still in the mix. So all these guys are having really good drives here. It's really nice to see that even though we're kind of holding the field up, there's no guys getting lost anywhere up and down the leaderboard other than the guys that, DNF'd or had some unfortunate issues where they had to pit an extra time. But yeah, just lap 20 now. This is a phenomenal race we got going. A little unfortunate that we weren't in the points position, but didn't really expect it, like I talked about, in every single race. As Bottas tries to make one more move around the outside, but he slams on the brake and bails early, and he will fall back into Pierre Gasly, which is another really steady. These aren't flashy moves. These aren't, you know, super high-speed corners. We're kind of working with what we got. The tire degradation is at an all-time high. We basically just need to get in, but we are doing really good to just, you know, put the car in the right position, make ourselves look as big as possible. Bottas is going to have one more chance at us here, and he is definitely getting it. We'll come back to that because Magnussen now is being pressured by Lance Stroll and Ocon, and he is still in 7th, and similar to us, he is just going to be all sorts of pressure with all these guys behind us opening their DRS, and he's, oh, this is incredible. If I had to vote for driver of the day right now, it's gotta be Magnussen, as he is trying to hold on, but unfortunately that Aston Martin seems too quickly, so finally on lap 20, he will relinquish P7, but in his mind, this still has to be a super successful weekend for Team Haas. Gunther is going to be extremely excited to be getting points, but for so long he held these cars, and it just proved that the Aston Martin is a very quick car. Is now right behind them. This beautiful, you know, TV angle is just so nice to see as we kind of weave our way through where we left off. This is going to be Bottas here in just a moment, making a move on us, and there it is, what we saw earlier, the move. He has the deer, and we will just flip on the battery as much as we have. We have about 17% left, trying to maintain speed, but you can just see how fast that Alfa Romeo is, and now that we are drained of battery, we have nothing left to defend, and he will easily overtake us, and in a matter of a second, he is down the road in a flash, and now we are tasked with defending from Pierre Gasly and even Logan Sargent. He will make contact with the front wheel as he kind of was swerving back and forth there, incidental nonetheless, but we'll make the inside move, one last move to hopefully hold on, and we will see if we can get this job done and maintain P14. This is, again, not for points, but we want this so bad as we make the round final corner, and our tires are just completely shot as we take that so slowly, have a snap of oversteer, which will surely allow Gasly, who's on the hards, to have one last go out of it. It's going to be a mad dash to the finish line. You can see him coming so quickly into our rearview mirror, and we were just past oh my word, just past the checkered line to hold on to 14th with Pierre Gasly a finger length away from us with unbelievable battling up and down. Valtteri Bottas will indeed get driver of the day. I think it could have gone to Magnussen, but he also drove a really fantastic race, holding on and passing us. This was just a moment ago. You saw Verstappen pass Perez and won the race, so it is a Red Bull 1-2 once again, but Hamilton gifted that third podium spot from Carlos Sainz, and just an unfortunate day for Ferrari with the engine failures, and then Sainz not being able to hold on for that podium. But Alonso now with a great battle once again from Lando Norris. We're going to recognize all these cars coming through because it was so exciting. It's great to see Lando have a good race. This is the one that baffled my mind. Stroll, I think, is right where he should be. Magnussen, P8 for Team Haas, followed by Ocon and Russell. That rounds out the top 10 for us. Bottas will finish just ahead of us in 13, and there is that close call there. As we just squeeze him to the outside, he had to make an overtake, and he can't get it done, and we will maintain P14. And now we'll head out for Max Verstappen and the top 3 for the podiums.
Well, confidence breeds confidence. Success breeds success. They are very much enjoying a purple patch right now.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Max Verstappen celebrates with his teammate Perez alongside of him, and the third podium goes to Sir Lewis Hamilton, but his Red Bull dominance once again here in the early goings of the season. Totally to be expected. But all in all, I'm very happy with how we finished that out. It was a defense masterclass out there. That's basically all we had in the car. The pace wasn't there. I'm not the most comfortable racing around Albert Park Circus. Kind of a bad setup in qualifiers, but nonetheless, we get a little bit of a reality check. No points this weekend, but I'm still very happy that we gained positions. Unfortunate for Roy, but we are looking forward to heading out to Baku for race weekend 4 with some new upgrades. That is it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you back here in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.